thank God it happened off the coast a little bit, and even more than that, thank God that the tsunami that looked like it was going to be pretty bad ended up not being so bad at all. Who knows if it was maybe our friends aliens who helped diffuse that some way. There's no good explanation as to why that tsunami wasn't worse than it was, but that's a beautiful thing, and my heart really goes out to the victims of these earthquakes in Haiti and Chile. I've met several people that lost people in Haiti, and Haitians are tough people. I've learned that from the few Haitians I've met that lost some friends and family. Pretty much everybody did there. It was a tremendous disaster, and they'll be rebuilding for that for 20 years. Easy. I really don't think there's a full appreciation or understanding exactly what happened in Haiti and now in Chile as well. Point being, these earthquakes are going to continue. An 8.8 is enormous. I don't know if it'll get bigger than that, but we're still over 2.5 years out from receiving the maximum amount of force we're going to get from 2012, so I have to assume that we probably will get worse than that. But if you live by a fault line, please be extraordinarily careful. Really have your stuff together. Make sure the roof above you is secured while you're sleeping, because that's how a lot of people are lost in these. But this is going to continue, and the reason why, this was something I suggested to Cliff High of the WebBot project. And if you don't know about him, Google WebBot, and what he does is fascinating. And from what I understand of it, I tried to get him on to be a guest, but he had a lot going on and wasn't able to do it at this point. Maybe in the future we'll get him. I don't think he understood quite how many space chickens there were out there and wanted to hear from him, but, hopefully we'll hear from Cliff in the near future. But I was really hoping that he would put in planetary movement in his supercomputer and then past earthquakes as well, because I'm certain anybody who did this, if somebody with a supercomputer together with earthquake data and astrologists, boy, we would be able to predict these very accurately, I think. At this point, we would have to learn to weigh in a lot of external influences that we don't fully understand where they're at with the 2012 thing. But essentially, the reason why we can expect earthquakes to become more and more significant is, let's look at the most basic example of the moon and the tides. Now, as everybody knows who's ever been to the ocean, the gravity of the moon alone, which is an extremely small body in the grand picture in space, raises our oceans up to 63 feet up and down in some areas of the world. And in all areas of the world, it moves that amount of water significantly. And to anyone who's ever been swimming in the ocean or surfed, I used to be a surfer, you understand the power of the water and just how heavy a little bit of water is. Anybody who's picked up a gallon of milk can imagine how much force this takes to move that much water. And of course, the Earth's crust lays on magma, so it's liquid underneath there, and the Earth's crust is constantly moving. So the moon pulls at this. The moon cycle has a tremendous impact on earthquakes as well, but even beyond that, if we look at the planets and where they're at, and when they're pulling at the same time, or the same time as the moon, in the past, that is what's caused most earthquakes. That is what makes the crust move in specific directions at specific times. It's not random by any means. There's a tremendous amount of gravity out there. Look at the size of Jupiter. Mars also has a lot to do with it. So does Venus, because they're very close to us. Jupiter especially, though, because it's absolutely enormous. But it pulls at our Earth's crust and it creates these earthquakes. And what's happening in 2012 is as simple as this. Let's look at our galaxy, which is the Milky Way, which is a spiral galaxy. And we've all seen pictures of these, I think, from on top, with a big white bulge in the middle, really is what it is. So let's picture our galaxy now. Close your eyes with me and picture this. Looking at it from the top, and let's picture it as a sombrero, the Mexican hat. And the Earth is located somewhere on the outside of that. We're one little speck in all of that. Now what we need to understand is in the middle of this, that tremendous white area, is many people refer to it as a black hole. And it's sort of, 6 to 1, half dozen to another. Because the fourth dimension essentially is reflection, and the center of galaxies are tremendously important when it comes to the fourth dimension. But what really is there is antimatter. And what antimatter is kind of hard to comprehend, but it's the exact opposite of what composes everything. Everything we see around us is matter. Everything is, even down to electricity, light is matter. And antimatter is the opposite of that. And what happens is on one end, things are sucked into a black hole, and on the other end, the antimatter shoots out the other end of the black hole. And this is alien information, so this is not mainstream science, but I assure you this is correct and all very logical if you follow this. But many people think that our galaxy is spinning into a black hole, and from our side of things, what we can see, this is not accurate. It's actually like a reverse spiral. And the reason we know this is because, and this too is alien information and not mainstream science, but absolutely correct, is antimatter and matter explode on contact, and those explosions help to contain the antimatter on one side in that area, which makes it all the more, it's a hard thing to understand. It's the butt end of a black hole, basically, is what we're looking at there. And on the other side is a black hole, and it's all sort of a mirror, so it sort of shoots in one side, and then there's a parallel Milky Way on the other side. There's two of them, at least two. Possibly several more, because everything is spherical in space, so that reflection goes in multiple directions. But really try to hang with this, because this isn't that hard to understand. What I just said is a little complex, but matter and antimatter, on contact, they explode. So everything else other than that big white mass in the center of our galaxy is made of matter. So when it comes into contact with that, it explodes, which pushes us outwards. The universe is expanding, not contracting, other than on the other side, it is contracting. But the reason for that, it's as simple as for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, which applies to everything in physics and space. Meaning essentially there's a mirror to everything. There's two of everything. One is opposite, and that's the parallel universe that people have been trying to comprehend for so long. But our galaxy is moving outwards, and spiral moving outwards. But in the middle, what we need to do now is we have that sombrero that is our galaxy. We need to turn it on its side, so we're looking at the thin side of it. So we can now see the hat part, the part where your head goes, which is a great way to look at it, because see how it's being sucked in that hole on one side through the black hole, on the other side there's a bulge, there's a mass, and that's the antimatter. Okay? But what we need to realize is our solar system, our star, which all of our planets go around, of course, is not just going around and around. As we're looking at on the thin way now, as we've turned the sombrero on its side, it's going up and down. At some points, it's on one side of, at one point it's on the top of the sombrero, and at other points it's on the bottom of the sombrero. And the period of time it takes for us to go up and down like this is 25,800 years. Now, everything is cyclical. Everything is a cycle. And to predict what's going to happen in the future, all we need to do is look at what happened last time, and it's going to be relatively close. There are always different variables each time, so nothing is entirely predictable, but we can always, get an idea of how this is going to happen by looking at what happened last time. Now, unfortunately, mankind was pretty bad at keeping records 26,000 years ago, and the fact of the matter is that we've come and gone from Earth several times since then. Atlantis has been here. The pyramids are actually about 20,000 years old. Everyone wants to tell us the Egyptians made them, but it's impossible to do today. But point being, the reason why 2012 is so significant is we're going to be right smack dab on December 21st, 2012, in the middle of that sombrero, right on the edge of it, coming from the top side to the bottom side, which has a lot of implications of us slipping into a parallel universe, right? In my mind, if for everything there's an equal and opposite reaction, there must be a parallel Earth that at some point is going to cross with us. We have the same path, but since it's all interdimensional, it's all a reflection of one another, so it won't be as though we collide, but we will cross over. And I do believe there's a distinct possibility that some people will go from one Earth to the other, possibly everybody. What that would look like, what that would be like, I don't know, and nobody seems to know. That's kind of uncharted waters, and when we look back, all we have is cave drawings, which actually, thank God we have those, because they're the only things that stick around for that long. But it says something, seeds of stars awaken with a bright flash. I mean, rather ominous messages. And exactly how it goes down is impossible to predict at this point. We just don't have that kind of information. But what the aliens tell me is it will be a massive period of change. Everything will change. And for a lot of us who've gone through this awakening process, I wonder if by some mechanism some of us haven't already jumped onto that mirror planet yet we're still here. And if that's the case, whether we'll continue to see everyone else who is